Hello there guys, welcome to one of my live videos, and on this video this morning I am going to be talking with you a bit more about Mauricio Pochettino. Also going to be giving you an update on some more transfer news, but I'm going to delve into the transfer news a bit later on in the video. So the first topic I'm going to start with is Mauricio Pochettino. So from my own perception, I do believe that Mauricio Pochettino will be Manchester United's manager next season. And I think, our fans, or the vast majority of our fans, have already made their decision who they want as our current manager, and that is Mauricio Pochettino. Because Mauricio Pochettino, anyway, has revealed that he's interested in taking the managerial role at Manchester United. Of course, if Manchester United do recommend Mauricio Pochettino in anywhere, it won't be until the end of the season, because obviously if Mauricio Pochettino was to be recommended in, or if he was to get another job before the end of the season, then obviously Tottenham would be entitled to £10 million in compensation. Obviously, if Man United do recommend Mauricio Pochettino in to replace Solskjaer, he will be our fifth permanent manager since the Alex Ferguson era, because obviously at the moment Solskjaer is our fourth permanent manager. He's been at Man United now for almost 14 months, and he's been permanent boss for almost 11 months as Solskjaer. But obviously, we've already sacked three managers since the Alex Ferguson era. Of course, we sacked David Moyes after 10 months, or was it about 9 or 10 months? He's enjoyed the shortest tenure with the club as David Moyes. Obviously, Alex Ferguson, he was to blame. He was to blame, for recommending David Moyes in at the current time. The main explanation why Ferguson recommended David Moyes in is because they was both Scottish. But, obviously we knew he was never going to succeed at Manchester United, David Moyes. Then obviously, Van Gaal, he got sacked just after, just over a year. Despite the fact that Louis Van Gaal did win, the FA Cup. Obviously, Louis Van Gaal, though, was a manager at the top level, reflecting what I did at Bayern Munich, I thought he was going to do well at Manchester United, but the main explanations why it didn't work out under him is because his philosophy wasn't right for the club. The football was turgid, so it didn't work out under him. Then obviously we recommended Jose Mourinho in. He enjoyed a 2.5-year tenure at the football club. Jose Mourinho, as a manager at the top level. Man United made a mistake by not recommending Jose Mourinho in at an earlier point, because he has passed it now. He's no longer a manager at the top level, but he's still got a fantastic pedigree as Jose Mourinho. But the main explanations why it didn't work out for him at Manchester United is because he had bad disputes with the board, he had bad disputes with the top players, and the board weren't backing the signings that I wanted to recommend in the summer of 2018. Mourinho did win the Europa League and the League Cup in his first season at Manchester United, and I think also got a second place in his current first season at the football club. But and it's not always the right solution, sacking managers persistently in that. But I just feel as though Solskjaer is not the right manager for Manchester United. I think, the club have made a lot of mistakes in the last 6 or 7 years. It's not only the explanation, but it's one of the main explanations, why we've been so inconsistent in the last 6 or 7 years. But I'd like Mauricio Pochettino to be my next manager. And, the mistake Manchester United did make was not recommending Mauricio Pochettino in after the sacking of Jose Mourinho in December 2018. That is when, we should have recommended Mauricio Pochettino in, because we've been long admirers of him anywhere. But, we decided to go with Solskjaer instead. But the main explanations why Solskjaer was our preference over Pochettino is because obviously, Solskjaer knows the club inside out. Solskjaer was a cheaper solution. And the only main reason why we give Solskjaer the job on a permanent basis is reflecting, on what he did when he was the interim manager. Because when he was the interim manager, he did do really, really well. He won his first 8 games, he won 10 games out of 13 in the Premier League, and he won 14 out of 19 in all competitions. So this is why we give him the job on a permanent basis. Obviously, if he hadn't done well when he was the interim manager, then he wouldn't have got the job on a permanent basis. But I think Pochettino would be the right manager for Manchester United. He's well proven in the Premier League. He's got that managerial experience, and I think he's totally comparison to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is Pochettino. He hasn't won out in terms of silverware, Pochettino, so that's an element of concern. I'm not saying if we recommend Pochettino in that, we'll win the league or we'll mount any kind of title challenge up, but I just think we'll look a much better outfit under, Mauricio Pochettino. Obviously, when he did reveal when he got sacked from Tottenham last year, Pochettino, that he said he wanted an immediate return to management. Obviously, he's been managerless now for around 3 or 4 months. Tottenham themselves did make a mistake by getting rid of Mauricio Pochettino. I thought he enjoyed a good 5.5-year tenure with Tottenham. Got to admire him what he did. Obviously, Mauricio Pochettino managed 293 games in all competitions for Tottenham, won 159 of them. And in the Premier League alone, he won 113 games in 202 games he managed in the Premier League. He also had a good short tenure with Southampton, because he guided Southampton to their highest ever finish in the Premier League. And before he was at Southampton, he was at Espanyol. So in total at the moment, Mauricio Pochettino has managed 3 clubs, but 2 of them have been Premier League clubs. And all of that. But, I think he's been managing now for just over a decade, because actually Mauricio Pochettino began his managerial career in 2009. So take that into account and that. But, the reasons why I think he'd be the right manager for Man United is because, I think his philosophy would be right for the club. He's good at developing young players. And, I just think he would be the right manager for Man United. And obviously, we've been in talks with Mauricio Pochettino. Obviously, it did say a while back, Pochettino said he was demanding quite a few things if he was to be recommended in. He said, he wanted to take control of the transfers. Obviously, he said he didn't want Ed Woodward to be there. He said he didn't want Ed Woodward to be currently there. And, but there's not only us that have been interested in Pochettino. There's been quite a few clubs in for him. Like reports emerged out a couple of days ago saying that Atletico Madrid were interested in Mauricio Pochettino. Obviously, Atletico Madrid, have got problems at the moment. They're enjoying a bad season. They're sitting like 6th or 7th in La Liga. Obviously, Diego Simeone's been a long-serving manager. He's been there about 8 years. Also Atletico Madrid have got a lot of injuries, but he said a couple of days ago from the mainstream media that Atletico Madrid were interested in getting him in. Obviously, earlier on in the season, there was speculation about him going to Bayern Munich. Obviously, Real Madrid have been long admirers of him. But, he's favoured to come to Manchester United is Mauricio Pochettino. So let me know in your comments below what you do think of it. But like I've mentioned on my recent videos, regardless of where our manager is, whether we stick with Solskjaer, whether we get Pochettino, or it doesn't matter what manager it is, I don't think, we'll ever replicate, what we did under Alex Ferguson. And that's something, Manchester United have got to currently accept. We'll never be the team that we was under Alex Ferguson. But I think it did say anyway, we'll only sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on one condition, and that's if we fail to, qualify for the Champions League. And of course, if we do finish out of the top 6, that's the only way Manchester United will sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this season. So if we are to get, Champions League football, Champions League football for next season and that, I do believe the club will be determined to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer another full season at Manchester United, because this is currently his first full season now at the football club. So, yeah, and I did say, we have got quite a few ambitions, and those ambitions are, is that top 4. That top 4 is very imperative, We are 6 points behind that top 4. We are currently sitting 8th in the Premier League at the moment. The only main explanation why we're in that top 4 is because, Chelsea have been so inconsistent this season. There's quite a few teams in that top 4 race. Obviously, as well, want to try and get some silverware on the board. Obviously, we can win the FA Cup. We can, win the Europa League. That's another route to Champions League football, don't forget. So we have got quite a few ambitions, but it's very imperative that we do get back to winning ways in the Premier League anywhere, because we are winless in our last 3 Premier League games. But, Solskjaer has been under intense pressure anywhere for the vast majority of this season. Obviously, we've been so inconsistent and we are enjoying our worst start to a Premier League season for 30 years. So up until this point, this is the worst we've ever been in the Premier League era. And since Solskjaer got the job permanently, he has lost more games in the Premier League than he has currently won in that. But, he's definitely not the long-term solution for Manchester United. And I think we've actually failed to qualify for the Champions League like 3 times out of the last 6 years or so. And that's not good enough to our standard, reflecting on the size and the potential of the club, reflecting on the amount of money that's been invested into the football club in the last 6 or 7 years. We should be much more of a commanding position than we're in now. Because I think we've spent nearly like £1 billion on recruiting new players in the last 6 or 7 years. And we don't forget, we also have the highest wage bill in the Premier League. But, it's going to take us, several years, to emulate to City and Liverpool's level. Because City and Liverpool are strides ahead of us at the moment. Obviously, City have not spent as much as us in the last 6 or 7 years. Liverpool have not spent nowhere near as much as us in the past 5 or 6 years or something like that. But, City, I think, have finished higher than us in the last 4 or 5 years. So take that into account. But I did say at the start of this season that I expected us to have a better season this season than what I saw last season and what I've seen in recent years. I didn't expect us to win the league, obviously, because I know that our squad's not good enough to win the league at the moment. It's not good enough to win the league at the moment. It's not even good enough to mount any kind of title challenge up. And, we haven't won the league since 2013, which is now 7 years ago. So the last time we won it was in Alex Ferguson's last season at Manchester United. Was in Alex Ferguson's last season and that. But, there's some things I do, credit Solskjaer for, since he's come in. Obviously, he's recommended 5 new players in 3 transfer windows. Obviously, last summer he brought Daniel James in, and Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire. Obviously, in the January transfer window, he brought Bruno Fernandes in and Odion Ighalo in. And, he's brought some good players in, like I mentioned, revert back to what I said. But we know that more signings are needed at Manchester United in the summer. And we're already making plans for the summer transfer window. Obviously, Solskjaer is to be still here, by the time the summer transfer window opens. It will be his 4th transfer window as Manchester United manager and that. But in the summer, we've got to address the deficiencies in the squad. Like I said on my recent video, I know we've been inconsistent for quite a lot of years now, but I still believe we've got the resources and the backing of the club to get the right calibre players to Manchester United in the summer. So possibly in the summer, we could get another centre-half in, we could try and get a left-back in. We could possibly, get a striker in. I think Solskjaer wants to recommend a striker. And we've obviously only got Odion Ighalo on loan until the end of the season. We possibly could get a right winner in. So there you go. Obviously, our sponsors, Adidas and Chevrolet, have got substantial clauses in their contracts, which means if Man United fail to qualify for the Champions League, then it will reduce our spending power in the summer. So this is another main explanation why it's very imperative that we get Champions League football for next season. Obviously, if we are to get in the top 4, then I do believe we will get some kind of pay rise for that if we're finishing that top 4 this season. But, we've got to get, the right players to Manchester United in the summer. Also, we need to see more players leave because he's still deadwood at the football club. I know a lot of players have left since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's arrival, but he's still deadwood at the football club, definitely. But there's cultural problems at the football club anywhere. And we need, like I've mentioned, I think if Pochettinho and that comes in, he'll change the culture of the club. But we don't only need a change of management, we need to see a variety of changes at the club. We need to see Ed Woodward and the Glazers out. Obviously, the United fans have been protesting Ed Woodward and the Glazers, including me. Obviously, we need to get rid of our board because our board has been a liability for several years. There's also problems with the coaching as well. Carrick, too inexperienced as a coach. Kieran McKenna, too inexperienced. So we need to see a lot of changes at the club, and there's also a lot of problems on the pitch because there's still a lot of aspects of our game that do need to, currently improve. But I've already told you, the main explanations why I don't think Solskjaer is the right manager for Man United is because too inexperienced as a manager. This is one reason. He's been tactically naive for the vast majority of the season. Doesn't have a plan A, doesn't really have a plan B. And these are the reasons why I don't think he's the right manager for Manchester United. And obviously, Man United is the third club he's managing in his managerial career. Before he was at Man United, he was at Mould. Obviously, before he was at Mould, he was at Cardiff. But, obviously, we didn't really pay that much to get Solskjaer in. We only paid, was it $1 million or $2 million to get him in on an interim basis. And then I think we paid a further £7 or £8 million, to give him the job on a permanent basis. This is what we are currently paid. And he did get, obviously, a huge pay rise in his, wages because he was only on like £400,000 a year at Mould. But now with Man United, he's on a good £7.5 million a year. And he's got like 2.5 years left on his deal. But I'm very sceptical, that he will, see out the remainder of his 2.5 year contract at Manchester United. Unless, we do dramatically improve. These some things I credit him for. I thought he was a great player for the football club for 11 years and that. Very, very good player. But I just think as a manager, he is totally a comparison. So I'm just being very, very honest with you. He's also got a lot of, trustworthy in his young players. And that's another thing I credit him for. Because he has given the young players their chances this season. And these quite a few of our young players that are in their first seasons in the senior squad. You've got Greenwood, who's in his first season in the senior squad. Brandon Williams, he's in his first season in the senior squad. James Garner, he's in his first season in the senior squad, so too is Chong. But yeah, I do believe a lot of the young players are going to become a success at Man United. I think Greenwood's going to do well. I think Greenwood needs to play more because he isn't getting enough starts in the Premier League, is Mason Greenwood. So he needs to start more in the Premier League. In the cup games, he's getting the starts, but in the Premier League, he isn't getting the starts. Williams, obviously, of course, now is our first choice left-back. I think he's a much better solution than Luke Shaw is Brandon Williams. Despite the fact that Luke Shaw's experienced and Brandon Williams is still inexperienced, but I think Williams is a better option because Luke Shaw's struggling for consistency and he has sustained a lot of injuries as a Manchester United player as Luke Shaw. Obviously, James Garner, he's played a couple of times this season. I've got a limited concerns about Chong. I think Chong is one of the players that Manchester United do need to move on because he hasn't emulated that level. I think he's set to go on a free transfer in the summer. Diego Dalot, he's just recently come back from injury. I don't really have a perception on him at the moment. I haven't really seen him play that much. Diego Dalot, but he will get more opportunities now that he's back from injury. Obviously, he's a backup option, to Wan-Bissaka. Angel Gomez, I don't see why he's here, because he's not getting any opportunities, Angel Gomez. And I did say when's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going to be convinced, to offload the player. But, revert back to what I said, yes, Solskjaer has got a lot of trustworthy in his young upcoming players in that. And like I said, there's a lot of young players in the squad that are developing and trying to improve. But Man United have had a lot of injuries this season, but that's not excusable for how inconsistent we've been. Obviously players are now coming back from injury, taking into account. Solskjaer has provided us with some news regarding Scott McTominay. He said, he's recovering, well from his, knee injury. Obviously, he's part of the warm weather training camp in Spain. So McTominay, could actually, be back for the Chelsea game after, the winter break, which is very, very good. And McTominay is definitely, one of the players I would be determined to keep because I think he's, he did really, really well earlier on in the season, did McTominay. So he has been a big miss in our midfield. Of course, obviously, Bay and Fosu Mensah have just recently come back from injury. Of course, Tuanzebe is part of the warm weather training camp in Spain. So he's also on his way back, is Tuanzebe, because I thought in the games he played in early on in the season, he did really, really well, did Tuanzebe. Of course, we've still got Paul Pogba out. He's obviously continuing his rehabilitation from his ankle injury, so he's not part of the warm weather training camp in Spain, Paul Pogba. Of course, Rashford's going to be out for a couple of months, with a back injury. You know, Rashford's been one of our best players this season. Obviously, Odin Ighalo is a good cover-up for Rashford. He's also a good alternative to Anthony Martial. Ighalo didn't go on the warm of a training camp in Spain. The main explanation is because the fears of the coronavirus that's been going round. So he did remain in the UK, did Odin Ighalo, but he's still going to. I still presume that he's going to make his debut against Chelsea. Definitely in that. So yeah, and. Yeah, so we have had a lot of injuries this season, but like I revert back to what I said, it hasn't been excusable. So now we will delve into some of the transfer news in that, guys. You know, we've got quite a few players on our agenda who I presume we're going to go in for in the summer. I'm actually now going to start with Koulibaly from Napoli. Now, I don't really talk about him much now. I've updated you here and there about him on a couple of my videos that I've done. Obviously, you know, reports are coming out saying that allegedly we are emerged as the favourites to sign Koulibaly in the summer from Napoli. Reportedly, it's been revealed that Koulibaly's got around 100. He's got around 127 million release clause in his Napoli contract. So reportedly, this is probably how much it would, you know, take, you know, to convince Napoli to do any business with a player. Napoli, you know, are enjoying a bad season, so that means in that aspect, you know, Koulibaly, you know, could be moved on. You know, there's quite a few clubs that have attracted their interest in Koulibaly. Obviously, you know, he's been a long-serving player for Napoli. I think Koulibaly now is into his sixth season now with Napoli. Of course, he's a former Genk and Mets player. Obviously, if Napoli were to sell him for like 127 million, they'd make a huge profit on the player, make a huge profit. Because Napoli only paid around £6 or £7 million for him from Genk, was it? But he's a very, very good centre-half, he's Koulibaly. You know, Man United, don't forget, were relentlessly linked with him last summer. Obviously, you know, I think last summer we had around, was it a 90 or £95 million bid turned down, but Napoli were willing to sell Koulibaly last summer. But from my own perception, I don't think we really need a centre-half. It's not one of the main priority areas, obviously. I think the midfield is more of a priority than that central defensive area. I know we've got Bruno Fernandes in, but I still think that we need a holding midfielder. But imagine that, you know, Koulibaly, you know, alongside Harry Maguire in our back line. What a centre-back partnership, you know, that would be. I think Lindelof's done well alongside Harry Maguire. I know his comparison to Koulibaly and that is not on the same level, but I think Lindelof's done well. You know, Lindelof now is into his third season as a Manchester United player. He didn't settle in straight away, you know, didn't do so well in his first season, you know, Lindelof. There was vast improvements in his second season. I think this season he has mainly done well as Victor Lindelof and that. And yeah, Victor Lindelof's definitely one of the players I would be determined to keep at Manchester United. But, you know, Koulibaly, you know, we didn't get him last summer. So what we did is instead, you know, recommended Harry Maguire in for £80 million. Of course, Harry Maguire is the most expensive defender in the world. And he's the second most expensive signing at the club, just behind Paul Pogba, who we paid £89 million for. Obviously, you know, Harry Maguire got given the captaincy on a permanent basis, reflecting on the, you know, departure of Ashley Young back in the January transfer window. Of course, Young went to Inter Milan for just £1.5 million after, you know, he endured 8.5 years at Manchester United and that. So, is a possibility chance that Man United could get Koulibaly in the summer, but he is going to cost us a substantial amount. I still think he's under contract with Napoli until 2023, but he's got a lot of good physical attributes, you know. I don't think I've got any element of concerns about his game. I think Koulibaly is a player that's got his distribution's good. He shows that ability to play out from the back. He's also very, very good in the air. And he would dramatically improve his defensively because we still are conceding goals despite the fact that we did recommend Harry Maguire in. So that's the latest news regarding Koulibaly. I do believe, though, of what I read yesterday, that, you know, Jack Grealish is going to be our first signing in the summer and our sixth signing overall under the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era. That's if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is still at Manchester United, because reports were emerging out of the mainstream media yesterday saying that Man United had agreed personal terms with Jack Grealish over a summer transfer. It reportedly said, you know, that Jack Grealish's preference was a move to Manchester United. Quite a few clubs have been in for him. It did say Real Madrid, Barcelona and Man City have expressed an interest in Jack Grealish. but reportedly he wants to make a move to Manchester United if he does leave Aston Villa this summer. And reportedly he's already in search for a new house in Manchester. But I think Jack Grealish would be the right calibre player for Manchester United. I do like Jack Grealish a lot. Obviously, he's well proven in the Premier League. I think he's a very, very good player. He can play as an attacking mid. He can also play as a winger. He is only at the age of 24, so he has still got a lot of years ahead of him. And don't forget, Solskjaer still wants to continue the policy of recruiting young players into Man United, and he'd fit our transfer strategy perfectly. Up until this point, Jack Grealish has spent the entirety of his career with Aston Villa. He's been an Aston Villa player since the age of 6. He's been in their senior squad since 2014, but he has become an integral part of Aston Villa's team, and I think he's key on Aston Villa's progression to the Carabao Cup final. I think with him in the team, I think Villa could avoid relegation, to be fair. But Jack Grealish has got around a 45 million release clause in his Villa contract. So I do believe that he will have to probably, trigger his release clause, or maybe Villa could demand more than what's in his release clause. Maybe we'd have to pay around £60 million for him. But he's still under contract with Villa until 2023, is Jack Grealish. So, yeah. So, reportedly, we've agreed the personal terms, for the play. Obviously, no figures yet being agreed, but, the personal terms have allegedly been agreed. Obviously, James Maddison was our preference over Jack Grealish, but obviously now it's looking very unlikely that we're going to get James Maddison because he's closing in on signing a new contract with Leicester, so we're not going to get James Maddison on the board. I do believe we're going to try and get Jadon Sancho in the summer. So yeah, these quite a few players on our current agenda. There's quite a few players on our current agenda in that. But, I've already said the players that need to leave Man United. Phil Jones needs to go. Matic needs to go. Lingard needs to go. Andres Pereira needs to go. Chong needs to go. So these still players that need to leave. Probably Luke Shaw. So there's still players that Manchester United do need to get rid of. I think Alexis Sanchez, he's coming back to Manchester United this summer, as you are all aware. Solskjaer obviously confirmed this not too long ago. I think from Inter Milan's perception, they're interested in getting him on a permanent transfer. I think we're making the wrong decision by recommending him back in, Sanchez, because I think he'll be another flop, because he hasn't really played much for Inter Milan, I think, due to injury. But we had Sanchez for 18 months and didn't even make an impact to Alexis Sanchez. And obviously the only way we would have got rid of him was putting him out on loan, because I don't think we'd have been able to get rid of him on a permanent transfer, reflecting on his substantial wages, because Sanchez was the highest paid player at the club. Well, he is still one of the highest paid players at the club, despite the fact that he's on loan at Inter Milan, because we're still paying the vast majority of his wages. I believe we're paying him around £300,000 a week, and Inter Milan paying the other 100,000. But, Solskjaer said, when Sanchez comes back, he will prove us all wrong, basically. And Solskjaer sees it as that, he will add more transition in the final third if he is to, make a return, which I think he's going to anywhere. And he'll, link up with the rest of the squad for the pre-season tours in the summer with Alexis Sanchez. And he is now, 31 or 32 years of age. But we're making a mistake, bringing him back, to Manchester United. Because we got him as part of a swap deal with Mkhitaryan going to Arsenal, in January 2018. Sanchez, I thought he'd have done well because he had a good 3 or 4 years of Arsenal. Arsenal made a mistake getting rid of him. And obviously, he played under Pep Guardiola's guidance when he was at Barcelona, when he was younger. So take that into account as well. So I wouldn't bring him back. But like I mentioned, there's players I would be determined to keep at Manchester United. Definitely there's players I would be determined to keep at the club. I keep Rashford. Martial, don't really have a perception on him at the moment. If he continues the bad vein of form, then I would get rid of him in the summer. Anthony Martial, he needs to be reverted back to the left hand side, because that's his predominant position. That number 9 is not his predominant position. He's only been operating in that number 9 role this season as Anthony Martial, and I think now we need to put Odin Ighalo in Anthony Martial's role, to be quite honest with you. But he's been getting a lot of criticism as Martial, and I think it's gone over the top a little bit, to be fair. You know, I'd keep McTominay, keep Lindelof, keep the free signings that were recommended in last summer. You know, obviously keep Greenwood and Williams and that. So these two players I would be determined to keep at Manchester United, definitely in that. So anyway, guys, that's everything to update you today. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.